Hi, welcome back. My name is Kate Reynolds and I am here with another Instant Pot class for Reddick Library. Thank you for having me again. Today we're going to be making 3 recipes in this spring version. We are going to start with a blueberry French toast casserole, which is divine and it is really easy to customize. I'm really excited about this one. And then we're also going to be making a easy taco spaghetti, which is a family pleaser, and a lemon butter chicken. Let's go ahead and get started first with the blueberry French toast casserole. This is the only recipe today that you do need a couple of extra things. You probably already have them in your kitchen. One is to make sure that you have the trivet that came with your Instant Pot or some other sort of sling. This is a silicone sling that you can find on Amazon, at Walmart, Kohl's. It just helps you lift things in and out. Again, it doesn't need to be silicone. The Instant Pot comes with one that is perfectly fine to use. And then you need an oven safe, freezer safe, dishwasher safe dish to actually cook inside your pot. You will have the pot liner, but then all of your food will actually be in this pot. The recipe calls for a 1.5 quart size. Anything that will fit what we make will work. It doesn't need to be round. If you have a square dish that fits in here like Pyrex, that works as well too. This is Pyrex, and we're gonna put the casserole right in here and then lower it into the pot with the sling. So those are the only extras that you need for this recipe. So let's get right into it. Before I forget, I have my sling that we're going to be using, and I am going to make sure to put in a cup of water into the Instant Pot liner because it cannot create pressure without steam. I just don't want to forget that step as we get going. And I'm just going to set this sling to the side. The first thing that we're going to do is, in a large bowl, we're going to whisk together 2 eggs, and 3 tablespoons of sugar, a 1/4 teaspoon of salt, 2 teaspoons cinnamon, and a teaspoon of vanilla extract. So I'm going to just go ahead and dump all of those ingredients in there. And 1 1/3 cups milk. I am using 2% today, but we have tried this recipe many ways. Any kind of milk or milk alternative that you want to use does turn out in this recipe. A lot of times with dairy milk, you have to worry about not using it directly in the Instant Pot because it can scald, but since we are, again, cooking this inside of something else, use whatever milk you have. Almond, cashew, milk, whole milk, heavy cream, whatever your family likes. So I'm going to go ahead and measure out 1 1/3 cup of milk, and let's whisk that all together. And this is where it already smells good because you know this is the basis of any good French toast. And once you have everything mixed together, you are ready to add in your bread. You'll see in the recipe, it calls for 6 cups of cubed Italian or French bread. You can use, if you have old bread that's starting to dry out, any of that will work. This is actually a really good recipe to use up things that you have in your kitchen. For today, I have Italian bread. It is a bit softer than French, so if you want your casserole to have more of a bite to it, I would err on the side of French, but this is what we are using today. And I just cubed it up before I came. And we have 6 cups here, which if you are going off of weight, it's about 6 ounces of bread. And you just dump it right in and give everything, I'm just pushing it around with the whisk. You just want to quickly get all of the bread soaked with the egg and milk. All right, I grabbed a spoon to make this a little bit easier on myself, and I'm gonna go ahead and finish folding the bread through the milk and egg mixture. You'll see that the bread starts getting pretty saturated, and you want it to soak up all of that sweet mixture. Okay, now that almost all of the liquid has been absorbed by the bread, I'm going to go ahead and dump in some blueberries. The recipe calls for 3/4 of a cup. You want to just make sure that you're not adding so many that it's going to overfill your container. This is the part that's really customizable. If you don't like blueberries, feel free to swap them out for strawberries. Add some walnuts. My kids love chocolate chips in this recipe. It's really easy to make it a meal that your family will enjoy. If you are a purist and want to keep your French toast plain, the recipe will still work. You just omit and move on. So I am going to just eyeball it and add in about 3/4 of a cup. These blueberries are huge, so it doesn't take very many. And I'm going to very gently toss. I don't want to break open any of the blueberries if we can help it. So I'm going to give them a quick toss through our ingredients. Now that everything's mixed together, we're ready to go ahead and put it in the dish. You want to take cooking spray and make sure that you really grease the inside. You don't want any of this to stick, then you can't enjoy it. So I'm going to make sure to really spray not just the bottom, but the sides of my pan. And then carefully get the mixture in. And this is the part where it does look like I have a lot more casserole than I do container, but you push it down and you make sure, because as it cooks under pressure, it compresses, and it's almost like a French toast monkey bread. It's really good, and the texture is great. So don't be afraid to just shove it in until it's all in there. And then I like to kind of make sure that not all of the blueberries or other mix-ins have all gone to one area. And then you want to cover your container tightly with a piece of foil. It doesn't have to be perfect. This is just so that all of the extra steam from the cooking pot doesn't get in and make this into a mess. That's all we have to do for prep of the casserole. And I'm going to set it on my sling and use the handles to carefully place it into my Instant Pot. Then I will close the lid, set it to sealing, and we want to cook this at high pressure for 20 minutes. So I will come down to the pressure cook button, hit it, and I am using the minus button to bring my timer back down until it reads 20 minutes. That's all there is to this recipe. We're going to let it cook for the 20 minutes, and then when it is done cooking, I will leave it for about 5 to 10 minutes to naturally release some of the pressure on its own. Then if there's any pressure remaining, I'll release the rest of it, carefully take off the lid, and we will lift out our casserole and enjoy. So we have let the French toast casserole depressurize completely. I actually have it unplugged now because it's done cooking, and I'm going to remove the lid, still opening it to make sure that the lid is away from my face. And my silicone sling, I can grab the handles without pot holders, but most people probably have something that does conduct heat, so make sure that you are carefully taking this out. Now you will see water sitting on top of the foil. It's not a big deal when you remove the foil. You can get rid of the water. And I'm going to carefully set this down. And then, like I said, All you have to do is carefully remove the foil from your container, and you have a delicious, this smells so good, blueberry French toast casserole. This is perfect as is. Scoop it out, kind of like a monkey bread or a bread pudding, drizzle it with syrup, and enjoy. If you do have it in a dish that you feel comfortable putting in your oven under the broiler, you can take it directly from here and broil it for a few minutes to get the top crunchy, but that's totally optional. My kids prefer it this way, and it is warm, comforting, and super delicious. The next recipe that we're going to get started is the super easy taco spaghetti. You can see down here that it is reading on. I have actually hit the saute button, and I am just waiting for this to heat up enough to add some oil. And the first thing that we're going to do is just saute an onion and some lean ground beef together until the beef is browned. Now you'll see that I have lean ground beef. For this recipe, I like to try to stick to at least 93.7 ground beef, if not the more leaner cuts, because that way you don't have to worry about having a lot of fat sitting in the pot, and you don't need to drain it. With a meat this lean, anything that does come out and render actually just adds to the flavor of the dish without making it too heavy. So since saute has been on and I can feel with my hand that the pot is hot, I'm going to add in a tablespoon of oil. Use whatever kind of oil that your family uses to cook with. And I have already chopped up my onion. This is just one small sweet onion. And get that added in. And then I'm just going to add in 1 pound of lean ground beef. This is a recipe if you want to use turkey. It turns out well. I've used ground chicken as well when that's what I have, and they all work just the same and have the same cooking instructions. So I'm going to go ahead and break up that meat and saute it with the onion until the onion has turned translucent and tender and all of the beef has evenly browned. All right, all of the meat has been browned, the onion is translucent, so we're going to go ahead and move on. The next step is simply adding a packet of your favorite taco seasoning. You can definitely use homemade if you want. This is our favorite, and I did stick with mild just because that is what I use so that everybody in my family, including the kids, can enjoy it. So I'm dumping in the whole packet of taco seasoning and following that with 2 cups of chicken broth. Go ahead and give that a little stir to incorporate everything. And that broth is actually the liquid that you're going to be cooking your spaghetti in. So you want to use a broth, not just water, to make sure that you have enough flavor throughout the dish. Okay, everything is stirred together. And now it calls for 8 ounces of spaghetti noodles, obviously broken in half so that they can fit in the pot. If you can find it, they do sell a box of half-length spaghetti, which I was able to pick up for this class, which makes it easier for sure. But you can break your favorite noodles in half. I have made this successfully with banza pasta, which is gluten-free and has a lot of extra protein. I was not successful with like plain brown rice pasta. If there are people wanting to make it gluten-free, go ahead and try your favorite pasta, but I do know that just the brown rice got really, really gummy. It needed a bit more starch to it. This is just regular run-of-the-mill spaghetti. So I'm going to take half of this 16-ounce box. And now how you put these noodles into the pot is what matters in this dish. You don't want to just dump them all in, because even if you stir around, they're going to cook like this and clump together, and all the starches are going to leave you with a gummed up mess. So you want to add them into the pot fanning them around as you go. They're definitely still going to be touching each other, but if you fan them and they only have 1 or 2 points where they're touching, all of the noodles will bake and be able to separate. So I will fan out half of a box's worth of pasta. I'm not making this too intricate. It sounds maybe a little more difficult than it is. Like I said, you just don't want to dump it in one single clump. I'm going to finish fanning. And then, without breaking noodles, I'm not pushing super hard, but I am gently pressing down the noodles just to make sure that they're all kind of in an even layer. They are not sitting submerged in the liquid currently. That is something to note. You don't need to push them all the way down into the liquid, because as it cooks, the steam is actually coming up and around the noodles to cook them. Add those in. Now I have a can of mild rotel. Again, if you like spicy, go ahead, get whichever variation you like. But to keep it family friendly and not too much spice, I'm gently dumping this on top across the noodles, and I'm not going to be stirring this in. This helps give the pasta some of its flavor as it cooks, and the tomatoes will release some more liquid as they cook as well, helping the noodles. And then I have 2 tablespoons of tomato paste, again, that I'm just going to stick in on top and not worry about stirring in. That will come at the end. So I have both the rotel and the tomato paste sitting on top of the pasta inside the pot. So the saute function is off. I'm going to go ahead and put the lid on the Instant Pot. I want to make sure that it's set to sealing. We're going to cook this at high pressure for 6 minutes. So again, I will come down, hit pressure cook, hit my last button until I can see that it reads 6 minutes, and I'm going to let this go. When it is done, I want to come over and I want to quick release the pressure to make sure that all the steam gets out and the pasta doesn't cook too long and turn into a gummy mess. However, when I quick release the pressure and I see the pin drop, I'm not going to take the lid off immediately. As soon as I know the pressure is gone, we're still going to let it sit for just a few minutes, and I'll show you what that looks like when it's time. I've quick released all of the pressure on this taco spaghetti, and I've been letting it sit for about 2 minutes, and the pin has already been dropped. So I'm going to turn, lift the lid away from me so I don't get any steam burns. It smells so good, but this is probably the best part, because now we're going to be adding in our cheese. First, I am going to give everything a stir together, and what I'm doing is I'm kind of going in and just loosening up all of the noodles on top before I give everything a stir. This gives it a chance. If there are some clumps of noodles, they should still at this point be fairly easy to separate, and they actually didn't clump together really at all. So give everything a good stir, and then add in our cheese. Use as much or as little as you like. I usually aim for about a cup, which is just generously topping all of the contents in the pot. No need to measure. And then gently setting the lid back on top so that the heat from the pan will start to melt the cheese. And then in a minute or two we can lift the lid off, stir it together, and serve it. Our last recipe for today is the really easy, really delicious lemon butter chicken. I have hit the saute button on the Instant Pot so that it can start heating up again. This is a dish that takes all the best flavors and puts them together. It's got lemon, it's got onion, it's got garlic, it's got butter. Can you go wrong? Now, today while I'm cooking, I am making a slightly smaller recipe yield than the recipe actually calls for, simply because I am cooking this in my Instant Pot Mini, which is the 3-quart, but the full recipe fits in a 6-quart or an 8-quart and can also be doubled without issue. You don't need to change the cooking time or anything like that, but they both fit completely in 6 or 8, as is or doubled. So the saute has been on, and I'm feeling for it to be warm, and I'm going to add in my butter, which is what I'm going to cook the onions in. This is 2 tablespoons of butter, and I'm just going to wait for that to melt. As that melts, I will be putting in 1 onion, and instead of dicing, I've actually sliced this. If your family prefers smaller pieces of onion or you need to hide them in there, feel free to dice it up. We like to actually have these sliced and start to caramelize and then add them on top of our chicken when it's done cooking as part of the sauce. It makes it that much better. So I see in here that the butter is melting. So to that, I'm going to add parsley, pepper, paprika, and salt. Again, my measurements today are a little bit different than what you have in your recipe. And then garlic. I have minced up 4 cloves here. If you are a garlic lover, I always say add as much as you like. You measure that with your heart. And I've got that in there. And I'm going to quick stir everything around, make sure that none of these spices start burning to the bottom as the rest of the butter melts. And this is when I'm going to dump in the sliced onion, and I'm going to start cooking this. I don't want to cook it all of the way because we will still be adding more ingredients to the pot, but I do want it to start softening before I add the chicken to brown. Okay, the onions are soft, and I am gently pushing them to the side so I can go ahead and stick in some chicken. Now, I am not fully cooking the chicken now, but I do want to get a little color on the sides of the chicken, so I am going to. Now again, I am working with the mini today, so I'm doing a piece at a time, just for about a minute or 2 on each side to give it some color and really lock in those juices. All of the chicken has been lightly browned. So now is just more steps to a really easy recipe. I'm adding in 2/3 of a cup of chicken broth. And while I'm at it, I'm also going to go ahead and hit cancel. I don't need to keep the saute function on right now. And then you want to add in about a 1/2 cup of lemon juice. Now, you'll see today I'm definitely just using bottled lemon juice, which is fine. Or because you actually add lemon pieces into the chicken as well, you can juice about the amount of 2 lemons. Will give you what you need for this recipe, and then you can take the pieces that you juiced and just add them in. Like I said, for today, for being here, I'm just using a little bit of a mix. So add in the lemon juice as well as lemon pieces. And give everything just a quick stir, but I will go ahead and keep those lemon pieces on top. As they cook under pressure, they will release more of their juices down into that chicken. And another thing, when I add in the broth and the lemon juice, I am quick scraping the bottom of the pot to make sure that there aren't any burned bits that will give me a burn notice on my Instant Pot. Just like deglazing in any other recipe that you make. So everything is stirred and looks good. Going to stick the lid on, and I'm going to cook this after I set it to sealing for 8 to 9 minutes at high pressure. I'm going to set this for 8 because I cooked it quite a bit as I was browning them. So pressure cook for 8 minutes, and then we are going to let this sit and naturally release for at least 5 minutes when it's done, and then we will take the chicken out and thicken up the sauce. All right, the chicken is done and it has been sitting for a while. I'm going to release the remaining pressure. There's just a bit. Always make sure that you stand back, don't have your face in the steam. And I'm going to hit cancel so that it turns off the keep warm function. And this is when you can really start to smell all of the flavors together. You get a bit of onion, a bit of garlic, and a lot of lemon. It smells so good. The pin has dropped and the pressure is released. So let's go ahead and open this. And before we turn this, before you turn the liquid into the sauce, I'm going to go ahead and take the chicken out and let it rest in a container. You can remove some of the lemon pieces with the chicken if they come out as you're doing so, but they're also fine to leave in as you thicken the sauce. Get the chicken out. I'm going to try to leave as much of the juice in the pot as I can. And again, remember, you'll have a bit more chicken than I do today. And then just go ahead and check. Okay. So now what I have left in there, I'm going to add cornstarch and stir so that it will thicken up. Today I have about 1 to 2 tablespoons. You may find that as you have used more chicken, you might need closer to 3 tablespoons of cornstarch. But I'm just going to gently shake this into the pot and then immediately start stirring so that it doesn't clump. You can use a whisk if you are worried, but I have found that any of the clumps that maybe do start in the beginning always break up with the heat. And I'm going to give that a stir. And then I can stir it again in about another minute and it should have thickened up. If you find that your sauce is a little bit thinner than you'd like, you can go ahead and hit the saute function for a minute or two, and as some of that extra steam escapes, it'll thicken up nicely. So it's only been about a minute, but the sauce has already thickened. So this recipe is already done. You can plate your chicken and drizzle this sauce all over. This makes a great dish with some cooked pasta added in, or rice, even over some potatoes. We like to crisp some potatoes in the oven with some rosemary and add this to it, and it is delicious. You can also definitely serve it on its own, and this is a big crowd pleaser. So that's it for our 3 recipes, and thank you for joining me, and thank you, Reddick, for having me back for another Instant Pot class.